Riverside School District. The regular meeting, February 21st, 2024, Chattaroy Elementary School. We'll start with the flag salute. Peter, would you lead us out?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, let's go ahead and start with the remarks for the good of the school.
All right. You guys should start coming on up too. Well, I invited some of my greatest teachers here. We want to welcome everyone, community members, board members. We really appreciate you guys hosting this kind of off-site from the district office. It really shows to myself and the staff that you guys really care. When you come to show your face here and see the work that we're doing, we love that. And so we feel supported, and we want to thank you again for that. I was going to do, kind of what we've done traditionally and show you all the data and all the great things we're doing, but ultimately, who cares, right? I can make any data look great, right? The reality is these professionals are working their tails off every day. We have a culture here at Chattaroy that we have put a big focus on literacy. And so this is... Perfect timing. Welcome. This is our work every day that we do with our kids, and they come to us at different levels, and we try to help the kids that are beginning to read, but yet extend the kids that are already becoming readers and extending on that. So I just want to say these guys are doing great work. Some of the other things that we're doing is One School, One Book, and that will be coming out here at the beginning of March. And this is our 6th segment of that. And what that is basically sharing literacy with our kids at school. We all share the same book, but they also bring it home to the families, and that's the encouragement. So we have a whole website that we do, and we read certain chapters each night, and we read together as a community. And so that's called One School, One Book. I want to thank Bob Carroll and the Deer Park Rotary Club. They're a major sponsor of this program, and also the Chattaroy PTO. They also help us fund this program. So again, we're talking over 300 books for our kids that go into the community. And the great thing about it is at the end of this program, the kids keep it on their bookshelves at home. So again, we've handed out now 6 different books to our kids, which we love. Again, we build readers here. That's our goal. That's our focus. What I wanted to do, because I know there's other things on the agenda, though, I wanted our staff to talk a little bit about the work that they do in their classrooms. And then I'll wrap up just at the end, and we'll go quick. So I think what we have, other than 4th grade, we have a representative. So if you guys want to introduce yourself and in the grade level, that would be great.
I'm Leslie Cushman. I teach 2nd grade.
Corinne Taylor, I teach 1st grade. Alyssa Howard, I also teach 1st grade.
I'm Brooke Thomas, and I teach kindergarten.
Jonah Jones, I do PE and then library SEL.
Kylie Pingrel, and I teach 3rd grade.
Debbie Semperman, and I also teach 3rd grade.
Perfect. You want to talk a little bit about what's going on in your classrooms at the time?
Well, our classroom works on a program called Collaborative Classroom for our reading curriculum. And each of the grade levels K through 2 use Collaborative Classroom. And following COVID, we had collaborative for a while then. But we really had a chance to kick in as a staff and work together on solidifying that curriculum and getting a good rhythm with it. And I have to say that this year we've had kids come in probably 50% better than they have in years past with their reading levels. And the fun thing about that program is that kids buy into the collaborative program because they see where they're at, and we're real about it, and they know where they need to be, and they know what it takes to get there, and they try really, really hard. And one of the really neat parts of it is we have David Vespershi here, who also works with my kids and some of everybody else's kids. And he really fosters a love of reading that was new to me when I met David. And the kids are inspired by him to feel like a reader and how to feel like a reader. And so the One School, One Book, for even our low-end readers, they can access that because we can play him reading the book in our classrooms and have group discussions. And there's access levels for every kid there, including in our reading curriculum. There's access levels for every level reader, and every level reader gets to feel like a reader in this building. So that's one thing that I really, really love, and I thank you for that curriculum because it's made me a way better reading teacher. I was not understanding until I was able to teach this curriculum. It's super powerful, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you,
Very
Ms.
much.
Christian.
Yeah, for first grade, I can say that the same, kind of building off of what you said with the curriculum, it's been great because having kids go from year to year, they're familiar, they have that vocabulary to go, this is where I'm going, this is where I've been, even from kinder, and even if they're coming from other districts, you can use. Alyssa and I and our other partner, Amy, we do a walk to read model, so the students are grouped based off of skills, so we can really target, hone in on each individual kid's growth, and so during that time, we're able to shuffle up kids and target their immediate needs, and it makes for really good camaraderie between the grade band too, so they're not. It's great being with your peers in the classroom. There's a lot of merit to that, but it is a fun time to shuffle them up and hone in on those skills and kind of broaden them a little bit more than trying to hold them continuum as we do it. But it's been a great thing, and it's brought our team closer, and there's a lot of development that can happen when you have a staple grounding. You can kind of go from. It's been great.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of growth with our kids this year. I feel like in our kids last year. Yeah, it's been really nice to spend time with kids that aren't traditionally your classroom
Yes.
kids to get to know all the kids that are great.
Yeah, it's
great.
Yeah. So kindergarten, we get a lot of different levels coming in, right? You have our kids that have gone through our wonderful preschool program or kids that have never been in school before. So kind of piping off what you guys have said, we've been using this curriculum to kind of reach everyone where they're at. And we kind of link it to fun skills. So like the sight words that go along with all the different reading groups, we've correlated them to a color. So then they're trying to fill in different colors of their rainbow. We have celebrations, and we're just really trying to make reading fun and a good experience. And no matter what level they're at, they're confident and they're excited to share. And it's been awesome. And I have kids that go up to first grade for a reading group. I have Mr. Conley who does some intervention for kids. So it really is a team effort, and it's been very successful.
And Travis reads names
Yeah.
When kids level up in their reading levels. We turn their names in, and then he'll read their names, and kids are just. We've even had parents call and say, "My kid's name hasn't been read. How's it
Yeah.
come?
Yeah.
How's it come?"
It's very
So
exciting.
that's a big deal.
Well, and they congratulate each other too. It builds
Yeah.
such a camaraderie in the classroom
They
too.
do.
When they're listening, they're like, "Wait, I know this. Where are you?" And they'll find them
Yes.
and cheer for them. It's pretty
Yeah.
great.
And happy birthday, Ms. Jones.
Thank you.
Happy, John.
So glad to spend it. So I, again, teach PE and I do library and SEL, and you're probably wondering why I am up here for literacy. So our library, and I can actually pull off of what a lot of them have said, the curriculum that we use puts kids into set, and I spent last year, I think, going through our books. We used to have an AR program, and so I've been leveling books, so when kids come into the library, if I know what step they're in, I can direct them to on-level books for them, so that's part of it. And then adding more books to our library, more that are current and have added interest. I was just looking at things like Warriors, graphic novels, just a bunch of things. And then pulling off of One School, One Book, I have gone through authors that we have introduced with that and been able to pull additional books that kids are like, "Ooh, I've seen that one, but have not had a chance to read it," and so have added it in. And I'm probably going to steal his thing, but so since 2021, with the start of ESSER funds, that and Scholastic and library funds, we've been able to add over 800 books.
And John ran a survey, and these aren't just books that adults pick. These are the books that the
Right.
kids asked
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the books they wanted weren't in the library.
They were tired of Sarah
They were
playing it.
tired. Yeah.
So third grade is kind of an anomaly because we've changed from learning to read to reading to learn. And so it's hard when you get kids that are still learning to read to get them to read to learn. So we have a lot of different things we do in third grade. David Casorsi takes, I think,
10 of my kids during our reading rotations, and I have Rachel Burscheid, who's a para that comes in, and we run reading rotations just to make sure that every single student in my classroom is getting some support with an adult. And actually, it kind of works out to where they get 2 hits at least twice a week of adults. Some kids I see every day. David Bustersi sees kids every day just because that consistency to bring their skills up is super important. I know Travis doesn't like data, but I'm a data person. And when we did our math test just recently, 21 of my 24 kids met their growth goal for math. So that means that they're at different levels, but they're all growing. And that's the biggest thing. I know that a student that comes in kindergarten that's reading at a kindergarten level isn't going to reach 3rd grade in 4 months, but the fact that they're just growing and growing and growing, they'll eventually get there, and that's kind of neat for me. Right, and eventually, and really we want to celebrate that success because we want them to be confident readers, and that starts from the beginning. And if they come into 3rd grade and they're like, oh, Susie's reading a book this big, and Amanda's reading this big, and I tell the kids, they don't really care how big your book is. You just want to reading and loving to read and learning to read, because eventually you will read for fun. And some of the kids are crazy, and then eventually they do read for fun, and they're like, this is fun, and that's kind of a huge thing. But so we run reading rotations and use the cafe model, or just really understanding how to be a reader and what good readers do, like stopping and asking questions, analyzing characters, and just kind of teaching that with the book they're reading at the time is helpful. So that's what's going on in my
Which is very similar, which is what's going on in my class, because we both do reading rotations. So they have, I have like 3 rotations, 20 minutes each for an hour, where they work in small groups, and I have Sandra actually comes in for 20 minutes of that, so she works with a group, and they go to Mr. Bustersi. So everybody in the class is, get some of that small group attention and work on skills that they need. Some of the kids I've noticed, they can read the words by now, but they're not understanding what they're reading. We really need to work on comprehension and giving them some strategies to understand what they're reading. And I think just instilling in them a love of reading, and that's where we want to get them excited about reading. And we do that. They can read, around the room. They get comfy, curled up under their tables, and when they get excited, they love their reading rotations, and they have cushions that they can lay down and just be comfy and curl up with a good book. And I think once they learn, they feel that they like to read, and they get that in their head, then they're going to continue to read, no matter what level they are. They're going to continue to read throughout their lifetime.
So I think you heard a lot of different names, Mr. Bustersi, Mrs. I don't know if we said Mrs. Isaacson, she's RTI in special education, Mrs. Huggins, Mrs. Burscheid. I could keep going. Molly, and then there's paras in kindergarten. So it's all hands on deck. And that's the thing right now. We know the importance of this, and every staff member is bought into what we're trying to do, and they all are helping in different ways that we can. So we squeeze every minute and then some to help these kids. And again, meet them individually where they're at. And that's the important thing. And we just can't do whole group like we used to in the old days. We have to meet them where they're at so they can grow. And like you're hearing, a lot of our kids are meeting goals. Now, contrary to what Mrs. Pringle says, I love data. I do. I'm actually a data geek, as Mr. Russell would say. But I have to be honest, I'm not excited about where we're at right now. So I want to use that word yet, right? We're doing the hard work, and I want to make sure that, we don't want to just follow the next shiny thing. So I'm not that person that likes to just switch if I don't see instant gratification and switch to the next thing. I don't think that's the answer. I think the work that we're doing, I think the people that we have, we're great. Now we just need to hone in and figure out why are our results not coming out when they're in 3rd and 4th grade with SBA. Again, they're not bad. They're right at the national average, but I'm not okay with that. I think our kids are better than that. I think our staff is better than that. And so I want to see those results. But you do it with a balance, right? I think what you heard too, I had a discussion with a colleague, and he made a simple statement and said, the best way for kids to learn to read is to keep them reading. I said, well, that's simple, right? I mean, that's an easy statement. The question is, though, because I was that kid that hated to read, you're not going to have me go home and read a book. I wasn't going to do it. But I think there's 4 ways that we get our kids to do it, and I think you heard some of the reasons here. And one of them is allotting the kids time. They need time in the classroom to cozy up with a book and read. And we allot that time. It's not all about just teachers talking to the kids. It's about the kids exploring and finding themselves in books. The other option, or the other thing, is access. They need to have these 800 plus books in here. Every classroom library, I invite you to come to our school and look at our classroom libraries. These guys not only have used their own personal funds, but we invest heavily in books as well. Kids need access to books. They need access to the things that they want to read. And that's the third thing, is choice. They need choice in what they're reading. If we keep feeding them what to read, they're not going to have interest in everything. So that choice needs to be there. The last thing, and I think you definitely heard this, is community. We have to foster a community in each and every classroom that builds readers. When you hear that kids are celebrating each other because they're leveling up, or when they're sharing books with other kids saying, oh my gosh, you have to read this book, that's when you start seeing literacy at the forefront and excitement. And that's what we're trying to build here. So yes, I love data. Yes, I see our SBA results. I'm not satisfied with them, but it will happen. We're going to keep working on that to make it happen because our kids, they're higher than what they're showing us right now. And I will remind you guys that our math results, which is a diagnostic, and our SBA results, it is just one data point. Come in and see the daily work that they're doing, and you're going to understand the whole child as a literacy expert, and you're going to see the major gains. I wanted to read to you a quote. I just finished a book, and it's about a Welsh football player. His name is Paul Mullen, and he, you may have heard the Welcome to Wrexham, that team that Ryan Reynolds and McElhenney bought. Anyway, this book about Paul Mullen, he said the only team that really makes you wish you could play for them is the one you support. And I think you can see that with these guys. These guys are great professionals, but they choose to be here. Many of the people here don't even live in our district. And we could take that as good and bad. I take it as great because they're choosing to be part of this team. And I love that. I love the fact that you guys support us. They feel that love. We love our superintendent. And so we want to, again, thank you for everything you guys do. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Travis, one question.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the book this year?
That is coming out March 6th.
Oh, okay.
It is in my office right now, but we will not disclose yet.
Okay.
We will be having an unveiling. Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Travis, one quick question. The progress reports that you do with the parents,
Yes.
because you had talked about they need to practice at home, and so making sure we're on the same page with parents. How's that going? Is that helping?
It's great. I think, again, communication is a two-way street, right? I mean, we as school need to communicate with parents. We need to be honest with you all about where our kids are. And that's okay. We're not all at the same levels. And it's great because we're doing those progress reports in math and reading by every unit. Because guess what? There's going to be some units your kids are succeeding. And it's just natural for them. Where there's other units, they're really struggling. Well, that's where we communicate on those progress reports so we can partner with you and the child. Again, we're team, whatever that child is. We've got to rally around the kids. We can't just do it here by ourselves. So we're very big on progress reports and, again, communication. And progress reports is just one means of that. Jonna, who helps me with the chatter, I mean, we're communicating when the progress reports are coming out. Because kids, you know them, I haven't seen anything. Well, yeah, I saw it on the chatter. You should have seen it today. So it's communication is key. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
It's one of the more, well, it is really the most in-depth program of its kind that I know of Rotary Club supporting in the Spokane area. And a lot of literacy programs that I see Rotary clubs do are just a matter of bringing a cardboard box of books to the school and dropping them off. The kids get the books, but there's no program. So when she talks about David's influence is incredible. Because of David and his ability to read and to really develop teachers as well as kids, we at our Rotary Club have it on as a line item continually every year. Now, it's the first time we've ever done that with a program, but it's really a valuable thing that is continuing to grow and become more of a staple for the kids going forward in their education. Other remarks for the good of the school? I just want to acknowledge tonight that Gary lost his wife. She died recently. He's just gone through the funeral experience. My brother is going to have his funeral. Died of a massive heart attack on 9th of February. And I've never planned a funeral before or a burial. I want to say that I pray that I live through this next week because of the amount of work that goes into doing the details of an event like that. But fortunately, I have Carol, my secret weapon, and she helps a lot. So I just wanted to tell you as a community that because it's been a tough time for both your areas. So. Any other remarks? We need a motion to adopt the agenda. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Approval of minutes from the previous meeting. I need a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Approval of the consent agenda. Need a motion. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Again, superintendent report.
All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone in the audience. Thanks for being here today. I'm gonna reserve a lot of my comments about the levy and bond coming up afterwards in a presentation. I think it would be good and healthy, if you're okay with it, to actually have participation from the crowd in an informal way, if they're comfortable doing that as well. But before that, just a few updates. So in our last meeting, we talked about the Screenagers movie. Remember that? So we've done a little bit more research on it. There's 3 films that are shown, and the one that we are scheduled to have, which we did book a date, March 11th, and it's Monday at 6 to 8 p.m. And because we don't have a town set up, we thought it would be good to serve as the school district to offer this opportunity. So folks, if you're not familiar with Screenagers, what it is it's a movie, not a movie, but like a documentary. It's about an hour long, and it really addresses this idea of teenagers mainly, although it's adolescent. It can be open to elementary age kids too. And it's really about these. It's about phones, smartphones, screens. And the second movie, there's one that's just an intro into the research behind it and some of the challenges that come with it, the challenges for schools, the challenges for kids, the challenges for families. But the way they have it set up is they have 3 viewings throughout the area, and so they asked if we could do the second one and then make it available to our community, and then also to Deer Park, if Deer Park wanted to come visit us. And so the second one that we are planning to show is the screen, and its impact on mental health. And so I think it's not a flashy movie. It's not like going to the theater. I mean, it's not that exciting, but it's more informational, and it's about an hour and 3 minutes long. So we, Penny, thanks for the offer on the church. I think we actually thought it would be better at the high school, NPR, but we invite, we're going to send out, blast out the messages. I wish when my kids were younger that that probably would have been good to think about, because I think we all worry about it. I mean, technology has its ups, but it also has a lot of downs. So I think it could be a good service to the community. It could be good service to kids, families of all ages, open to the community. And then we have a panel that comes in. So we have a couple panels, members from the ESD. There's usually like, it could be a member of the FBI who talks about internet safety. It could be a mental health professional that talks about the impact that it's had on things like anxiety and depression and so on. And then tips for families and how it's tough, right, to manage that with kids. But anyways, I wanted to let you know about that. March 11th, Monday, everybody's invited. we'll blast out the information. And any questions on that one? Questions? That's Screenagers. Another couple positive updates. I really invite all of you to attend this Saturday, and anybody in the crowd, our first state basketball game in 10 years. And so I'm excited that our boys basketball team is going to be playing Bellevue Christian, 6 p.m. this Saturday night, and it's in town. It's at West Valley High School. So let's pack the house, red out, and let's make it feel like a home court advantage. So we have a Rooter bus that First Student's donating. The boosters are meeting tonight about paying for the kids' tickets into the game, the state, so that we can get a big crowd, and our cheer will be there, right? And so anyways, yeah, I invite you to come. It'd be good for the board to be there, just to build relationships, show support. So anyways, wanted to let you know about that. And then Jocelyn asked about the Right at School program. So the Right at School program is kind of like YMCA. We used to be with YMCA, but it's a different national corporation. And we had decided a few years ago to help offset the cost for some of our families. And the main theory behind it is that, we don't have a ton of after-school child care type programs in our school district. And so part of it was trying to serve some of the families. And also our theory was it might help with enrollment, because we had some families that weren't choosing Riverside because they didn't have access to services. However, we told them when we advertised the program that it was really only going to go 2 years. Because the only way that schools, Deer Park's in the same boat, 9 Mile Falls is in the same boat, the funding source is going away. So we have to talk about that, but I think it's going to be difficult to continue to offer it, just because, we have to talk about our levy, we have to talk about the challenges. I'll mention the financial challenges that we have going forward. And so that's the update that you asked for, Jocelyn, around Right at School. So it would end in June.
Okay.
And I think if we did that, we would communicate with the parents, and we would let them know early enough that they could make a transition. But we just, I think that's where we're at.
How is enrollment then?
21, 22 kids, so it's not huge, but at the same time, it's serving, they like the program, it's after school. Yeah. Okay? So I think that's pretty much it for the superintendent report. Most of the content will be the bond and the levy.
Presentation.
So, okay. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks. I think it's awesome that people showed up tonight, because it's a challenging topic, and there's different opinions about it. And so I think it's really good. Thank you. I mean, we can't do it all on social media, and that's what happens nowadays. Is there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there on both sides, and so I think anything we can do face to face is good, whether we disagree or not. So thank you for being here. And I want to keep saying the Rise is one. What I see happening in other districts is a lot of division. And so the division we're seeing in our country is trickling down into our state, into our local communities. Please, can we work hard on not letting it seep in so deep that we can't manage it in our own community? And the bond and levy has brought that up. And it's still healthy, it's good, but I just do worry about, because I'll talk about our mission, but part of our mission is to try to help the community as a whole. And so somebody said, well, you're going to remove that bond now that you didn't pass the bond? No, the bond is still the trusting relationships built on bonds. And so, no, that stays right there. But anyways, I wanted to remind you of that. I'm going to be real with you. I mean, I don't want to be rose-colored glasses all the time. That's a criticism that I hear. But I want to be real that on one hand, we should be very thankful. thankful to our voters in our community for passing our levy, for getting out and being active. We had about 4,000 voters, 43% turnout, which is one of the highest turnouts we've had in elections in a while. If you compare it to the last election we had, it was a little under 30. So that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. No matter if it was no voters or yes voters or whatever, I think the involvement and the engagement's good. I also am disappointed. You know, I'm disappointed, and I think we're disappointed that we lost the bond. But at the same time, you know, I kicked the dog a little bit last week, and you get back in the saddle, and you pretty much just keep talking about it. And I think that's where we're at right now. I want to thank our voters for the results. So basically, these are the results you can see here. These are not the final results. These are the preliminary results. I think they're still being cleaned up. But basically, we had about an overall 55.16% levy yes. Notice one thing that stands out to me is, I don't know if this is true for people who've been on the board before in the past, but one thing I heard when I was hired is that there's difference between like Pend Oreille County and Spokane County in the elections. And what we've noticed, at least in the ones that I've been involved in, is it's kind of similar. So you notice that is pretty similar here too. Is that between Pend Oreille and Spokane, the results are fairly consistent. And then the disappointment, you know, we ran the bond, we ended up getting about a little over 50% passage. It did not pass because a bond requires 60% approval in Washington State. But at the same time, again, really good turnout. I think that 3,983, I don't think is 100% accurate, went slightly above 4,000. And so, you know, there's different ways to interpret it, right? I mean, there's been people that said to me, geez, man, you didn't come close. And then there's others that said, geez, that was better than I said. So I don't know. It all depends on people's perspective, right? So there's mixed emotions that we've all gone through about this. I did want to highlight a couple things. First, I think you've got a really interesting regional trend. I don't know, did all of you see the elections across Spokane area? I just think it's fascinating. Having been in public education for 30 plus years in this area, this is the first time I've ever seen the situation we're in right now. So, for example, Spokane Public Schools, just for you know, kind of interesting, I don't know the answer, but didn't pass a bond for the first time in 50 years. And then you've got a school like Freeman. Freeman has been, you know, statistically really, really high in the passages of levies and bonds, and they are lower than us on the EP&O, and they're not passing their capital levy. And I'm not trying to point out anybody in particular, but I'm just trying to point out that the trends are not good in regards to levies and bonds. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what that might mean, but you'll notice like our levy rate went down. So yeah, we're happy that we won the levy, but at the same time, we had a higher passage rate during COVID. Of our last levy in 2021, we passed it at 57%. So that's good information to find out what can we improve and how we can get better. There wasn't a single bond that passed in Spokane. So on one hand, you know, that might tell you something different than just looking at your own individual situation. I feel bad that I feel a little better that everybody failed than just us. I mean, but that's not a good thing to think. I'm just being straight up about it. But there's some things to kind of look through and learn from, for sure. The one thing I want to throw this out. I'm a Denzel Washington fan. I just got to throw out a little bit of Denzel because he's a good motivator. And I do want to highlight that there is some positive in going for something. And I want us to just think about, you know, being in the game and taking the risk. And leadership requires vision, and it's not always an easy thing because it's very difficult topics. People get personal about it, and so, but at the same time, if we're strong in our vision of what we're trying to do for kids and the community, not being so afraid of failure is not a bad thing. So let's listen to Denzel for just a second, see if it has any relevance to what we're going through right now.
Do you have the guts to fail?
Not sure on the audio. So we'll bounce through that. But the point was that there's some positives to trying, like I said. One of the things he talks about is and he was talking to a graduating class at University of Penn, is that if you're always worried about failing, you'll never try something big. And then if you try it, the good thing is you'll find out where you're at. And that's I think a good reason why to run a bond is based on all the processing that we've done, but it gives you an assessment of where we're at. And if we can look at this quote, for example, every system is perfectly designed for the results it gets. If we can be good learners and good lead learners as a board and as a superintendent, our principals, our administrators, if we can be humble and go in within a learning stance, we can get the information from those people who are here today, from people out in the community that supported or didn't support it, and try to get better and learn from it. But if you don't ever go for it and you don't ever get that information, it's kind of hard to move forward. So just something to think about. My daughter, Allie, when I go through disappointment or adversity, my faith and my family are big just like the rest of you. And my daughter, Allie, sent me this little card that I had given to her when she was going through some struggles. I'm sorry about the penmanship. But anyway, she sent it the day after the election and said, "Hey, Dad, you could use this." And it says, "Pessimists complain about the wind. Optimists expect the wind to change. Leaders adjust the sails." John Maxwell. And I think that's something that we should think about. We should think about the learning, the ability to adjust, to change, and be optimistic about it and be positive about it. So what are some of the lessons, I think, for Riverside, but also for the region? And I think the number one thing is topics about money. So my wondering is, before you even go into talking about the bond, rerunning the bond, or whatever, I think we need to have good conversations about money. I mean, for example, I don't think we've done a good enough job of communicating out to our public about some of the challenges that we have in the legislative branch, in the state level. Okay, so I'll give you a perfect example. So there's a bill right now, House Bill 1248, and it looks like it's going to pass. And it basically is going to pay for wages or for benefits for contracted bus drivers and staff, okay? Well, what people may not know in our area is that if you have that going on at the legislative level, and we try to battle it out with our legislators,